So we're humans, and life is based on emotional experiences for us. There's people that are emotional, and there's people that are logic, but we are emotional and illogic. And I've made it a point the past 19 years to study how to keep my brain healthy because I love health and wellness, and I love staying healthy, and I love to eat good. And a lot of people ask me, what is the difference between ADHD and bipolar, since I'm a psych major? The difference between ADHD and bipolar is that one is a neurological and the other is a mood disorder. The majority of people struggle with depression. That's normal. Bipolar is a normal part of human growth, and it can be cured over time with cognitive behavioral therapy, medications, education, and sometimes, for some people, even a possible change of environment. It's a chemical imbalance, and you do things according to your mood. But with ADHD, it's a characteristic like having brown hair and brown eyes. You can't change it. ADHD is something that you're born with. Just like if I was born unable to walk and I was crippled and I had to have a wheelchair. ADHD is the same way. You have to have medications. ADHD people are more impulsive, and they do things because it's very similar to like having a seizure, like Tourette's or epilepsy. And then there are also things like absence seizures. It's something that you can't control. In fact, majority of people struggle with bipolar. Bipolar people tend to self-medicate with sleeping, watching TV, nicotine, alcohol, caffeine, sugar, or other substances. Bipolar people have a tendency to isolate themselves, and they don't interact with people because they have mood swings that can cause them to be uncooperative, aggressive, have a sense of grandiosity, or overly emotional. ADHD, like I said, is a neurological characteristic of hyperactivity and impulsivity, a lot like having a seizure, and it never goes away. ADHD is usually treated from your childhood into your adult years. It never goes away. It can get better over time with consistent education, training, and cognitive behavioral therapy. But like I said, it doesn't ever go away, just like how you can't change your eye color. ADHD takes years of behavioral therapy with medications to train impulsivity because it's a firing in the brain. The difference between bipolar and ADHD, for example, I'm going to say with shopping. Someone with a bipolar disorder will be more than likely to spend money impulsively to change their moods, to increase pleasure or serotonin and dopamine, possibly because they're sad, angry, confused, or bored, and that's depression. And it's a big mixture of grief and sadness and anger and a lack of stimulation and understanding. Doing things like that and going out to eat and taking vacations on a whim, or maybe even possibly packing up all their stuff and moving impulsively. Things like that usually have to do with depression. And depression does not make you a bad person. You're not wrong for having those feelings, and you're not wrong for acting on those feelings and those impulses. Your body is trying to heal. You have the right to heal yourself, but it's important to seek help from a professional psychologist, therapist, and psychiatrist to start medications and cognitive behavioral therapy. ADHD people really don't shop because ADHD people have a hard time with time management and keeping lists. They can shop, but they're more impulsive and they're very fast, like it's a race. They're impulsive, so if they're shopping online, it's like click, 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 and they buy, or they go into the store and they grab, and they leave. And then they get home and they like, I lost my list, and they're missing things, and they bought the wrong thing, and they have to go back to the store and they have to exchange it, and they have to do this and that and so forth, and it's a mess. When bipolar people go shopping, it's more, like I said, based on a mood. It's based on either anger, sadness, impulsivity, grief, and they're possibly doing these things to change how they feel. Then there's anxiety. Anxiety, anybody can have. You can be a narcissist or a psychopath or a sociopath and have anxiety. Anxiety can possibly be a symptom, though, of bipolar and ADHD. People with ADHD can have anxiety because of their hyperactivity, and they know what is expected of them to function successfully. Their neurological impulses in their brain hinder them from their ability to function. And so a lot of times they have anxiety because they know what they're doing, but they're literally incapable of physically performing without proper medications because it's a seizure. ADHD people aren't full-blown intellectually disabled because they know that they have to perform, but they're just almost incapable of physically doing so without medication and cognitive behavioral therapy support. So the big difference between bipolar and ADHD is like when you read in the DSM-5, it says something about ADHD people can't sit still in their chair. You know, that sounds so silly. It's like, oh, okay, everybody has a hard time sitting still in their chair. And you might want to laugh at that and think that it's silly. But it's important because the difference between bipolar and ADHD is that people can't sit still because of this seizure-like hyperactivity, whereas bipolar tend to do things based on their mood, rather like they're tired or they're angry or they're happy or they're anxious or just hyper. So it's mood swings. For bipolar people, they can be up for days and then sleep for days. People with ADHD are on the move constantly and could possibly crash, but then they get back up because they're hyperactive. It's important to understand that people can have bipolar with anything. You can be a narcissist, a psychopath, a sociopath. You can have ADHD or epilepsy and be bipolar too. But having ADHD and bipolar together is very messy, but it's very important to understand that you can have both and that you can heal your bipolar, but you can't heal your ADHD. People with ADHD and bipolar is very messy. There's a lot of masking involved because people with ADHD are super hyperactive and they're very outgoing and they appear to be very go happy lucky, but they're masking symptoms of depression because they can't function properly without their ADHD medications. It's really important to know the difference between bipolar and ADHD so you can understand how to better take care of yourself. Bipolar depression can be healed, but ADHD will never go away. And that's why it's important to understand the difference between bipolar depression and ADHD, because they need to be treated accordingly. You can't treat somebody with bipolar depression and expect them to heal if they're suffering from ADHD. As the same, you can't treat someone with bipolar depression thinking they have ADHD. There's a big difference. And it's a real simple for me to understand. I don't know why society has a hard time understanding the difference between ADHD and bipolar, because there's a huge difference. Like I said, ADHD is a characteristic like having brown eyes and brown hair. It's a seizure and you cannot get rid of it. You'll have it forever. Bipolar can be cured. So take some time with yourself and sit down, journal, write down your traits, your symptoms, your characteristics, and reach out to a professional mental health care provider. Reach out to a psychologist. Take an exam if you have to, and figure out what it is that you're struggling with, whether you're having seizures or whether you're having a mood disorder. There's a big difference, and it's pretty easy to figure out. Also, yeah. Good luck.